Yeah, big changes to student visas coming in 2025. Hey there, everyone. We're diving into some pretty big changes coming up for those of you either studying in Australia or thinking about it. Yeah, big changes to student visas coming in 2025. Picture this, you're, enjoying the Aussie life, maybe grabbing a coffee after class, but your visa's about to expire. Well, get ready because starting January 1st, 2025, no more renewing with just a letter of offer.
Yeah, that's right. You'll need what's called a Confirmation of Enrolment, or COE for short. It's already a requirement for students applying from outside Australia, but now it's becoming the standard for everyone.
Okay, so let's break this down a bit. What exactly is a COE, and why is this change such a big deal?
Basically, think of it like your golden ticket. It's official proof from your university or college confirming you're not only accepted into a course, but that you've also paid your tuition fees. It shows the Australian government you're truly committed to studying there, not just hanging around.
So no more last-minute visa scrambles. If you're already in Australia and you apply for a student visa after January 1st, 2025 without that COE, your application is basically invalid. And here's the kicker, you won't even get a bridging visa.
It is a pretty big change.
It is. Do you think this will affect students differently depending on their finances? Having to sort out all your finances up front for the COE.
That's a really good point, and it's definitely something to watch as these changes come into effect. Making sure education is accessible regardless of background is really important.
Exactly. But I'm guessing there are some exceptions to this whole COE rule, right?
Absolutely. If you're a defense student or involved with foreign affairs or even on a secondary exchange program, you can still use alternative documents.
Mm-hmm.
But for everyone else, that COE is crucial.
So to all the current students listening, what's the one thing you need to do right now?
Don't wait. Get that COE sorted well before your current visa expires. And anyone thinking about studying in Australia down the line, make sure to factor this change into your plans. Don't let it catch you off guard.
Now let's say you're about to graduate, you've aced your courses, and boom, you land your dream job in Australia. But oh no, your visa's about to expire. What can you do?
Well, in that case, you'd want to look into a temporary graduate visa. It's designed specifically for grads like you, giving them a chance to gain work experience in Australia after they finish their studies.
So it's kind of like a safety net.
Exactly.
Hmm.
It buys you some time and the chance to maybe even transition to a more permanent visa later on.
What about the time frame? How long can someone stay on a temporary graduate visa?
It depends on your qualification, but generally you can stay for between 18 months and 4 years. It's a pretty great opportunity to get some valuable experience and start building your career in Australia.
So we've talked about needing a COE to renew your student visa and touched on the temporary graduate visa as an option for after you graduate. What other important details about the temporary graduate visa should students be aware of?
Well, one thing to remember is that you don't actually need a job offer lined up to apply for it. So even if you haven't landed that dream job before your student visa runs out, you can still apply for the temporary graduate visa and use that time to find a job.
That's huge. Takes a lot of pressure off.
It does. Another thing is that there are actually different streams within the temporary graduate visa, each with its own criteria. Some are linked to your field of study, while others are more open. It's definitely worth researching which stream best suits your situation and your career goals.
So don't just assume you automatically qualify for the temporary graduate visa. Take the time to figure out which stream is right for you. Now we've covered the what and the how of these visa changes, but let's dive into the why for a moment. What's the reasoning behind all of this, and how could it potentially impact Australia's reputation as a global education hub?
That's a fantastic question, and one that leads us into a really interesting discussion about the future of international education in Australia. This shift to requiring a COE for all student visa applications, it's about more than just streamlining the process. It's really a sign that Australia is committed to attracting genuine students, those who are serious about their education. It's about quality, over quantity.
So by raising the bar, could this actually make Australia more attractive to international students? I mean, if you're a student looking for a top-notch education, knowing that everyone else is also fully committed, probably adds to the whole experience, right?
Exactly. Think about it. A more rigorous system could really boost Australia's rep as a provider of high-quality education. Students who are willing to go the extra mile to get that COE are likely to be more motivated and dedicated to their studies.
Yeah, it makes sense. If you're investing that much effort up front, you're probably pretty serious about your education. And a more focus-driven student body could then lead to better outcomes for everyone.
Precisely. And let's not forget the economic benefits. International education is a huge industry for Australia. It brings in billions of dollars each year.
Right. So ensuring a steady flow of committed students could have positive ripple effects throughout the Australian economy.
Absolutely. It's about creating a system that's sustainable and benefits both the students and the country. We might even see like a surge in innovation and entrepreneurship if talented graduates choose to stay and build their careers in Australia.
Now, I know some people might be a little worried about potential downsides to these changes. What about students who might not be able to secure a COE in time? Like happens, plans change. What if someone can't pay their fees up front or their application hits a snag?
Yeah, that's a valid concern. And it's why it's so important for students to be aware of all their options. Remember, a student visa isn't the only path to staying in Australia.
Right, we talked about the temporary graduate visa earlier. Are there other visas that might be relevant here?
Yeah, depending on their individual circumstances, students might consider a working holiday visa or even a visitor visa. It's really all about being informed and exploring all the different pathways that are available.
So the key takeaway is don't panic, do your research, talk to your education provider, and make sure you have a solid plan.
Exactly. Knowledge is power, especially when it comes to navigating immigration systems. These changes may seem a bit daunting at first, but with the right info and a bit of planning, they can actually create a more secure and positive experience for international students in Australia.
So we've talked about the potential positive impacts, attracting more committed students, boosting Australia's reputation, and contributing to economic growth. But what about potential downsides? Are there any unintended consequences we should be talking about?
That's a great question. And yeah, it's important to look at this from all sides. For example, some people argue that requiring a COE up front could disadvantage students from less privileged backgrounds, who might struggle to pay their fees early on.
That's a valid concern. We don't want to create a system that unintentionally excludes talented individuals just because of their financial situation.
Exactly. It's a tough balance. And it's something policymakers will need to keep a close eye on to make sure everyone has equal access to education.
Are there any other potential downsides we should be aware of?
Well, another concern is that these changes could lead to less student diversity. If some students are put off by the stricter requirements and choose to go to countries with more flexible visa rules, Australia could lose out on the rich cultural exchange that international students bring.
That's a great point. Australia has always been a melting pot of cultures, and it's important to maintain that diversity.
Absolutely. It's not just about attracting students, but about creating a welcoming and inclusive environment where they feel supported and valued.
Because those students, they become part of the fabric of Australian society. They bring their own skills and perspectives, which really enriches the whole country.
Precisely. And that's why it's so important to monitor and evaluate these changes. We need to continuously assess the impact, get feedback from students and institutions, and be ready to make adjustments if needed to make sure we're achieving the outcomes we want.
So while these visa changes aim to create a more sustainable and quality-focused education system, we need to stay alert and address any potential hiccups along the way.
Absolutely. And for students, it's crucial to stay informed, do your research, and speak up for your needs.
Okay, so we've covered a lot today. From the details of the COE requirement to the broader impact on Australia's education landscape, we've really explored this issue from all angles. As we wrap up, what's the one key message you want our listeners to take away from this deep dive?
I think the most important thing is to be aware of these changes, understand how they might affect you, and plan accordingly. Whether you're a current student, a future student, or just someone interested in the future of international education knowledge is power.
So true. And remember, everyone, this is a fluid situation. Things are always changing, and we'll continue to keep a close watch on how things develop as we head into 2025. But here's a thought-provoking question to leave you with. With Australia kind of making things a bit tougher for international students to get in, could this actually lead to a more, sustainable and ethical model of international education? One that focuses on genuine learning and cultural exchange rather than just increasing those enrollment numbers?
That's a really thought-provoking question. It really makes you wonder if these changes might, shift the way we view international students. Instead of just seeing them as a source of revenue, we might start recognizing their value as individuals who bring diversity and vibrancy to the learning environment.
Right. It becomes about building genuine connections and promoting intercultural understanding, not just filling seats in classrooms. So if these changes attract a more discerning group of international students, those who are truly passionate about studying in Australia and immersing themselves in the culture, Could that actually create a richer experience for everyone?
It's definitely a possibility. A more selective system could encourage greater engagement and interaction among students from different backgrounds. And that kind of cross-cultural exchange can be incredibly enriching, both personally and academically.
Yeah, imagine the collaborations and the innovations that could come from a group of students who are all deeply invested in their studies and eager to share their unique perspectives. That's pretty exciting to think about.
It really is.
Yeah.
And aligns with the idea of moving towards a more sustainable and ethical approach to international education, one that benefits both the students and the host country in the long term.
All right, so we've covered a lot of ground today. We've discussed the changes to student visas in Australia, the implications of the COE requirement, and even considered how this might impact international education on a global scale. For those tuning in, what are the key takeaways you should remember?
Well, first things first, if you're planning to study in Australia or you're already there and want to renew your visa, don't procrastinate. Get familiar with the new COE requirement and make sure you have everything sorted out well in advance. Those letters of offer won't be enough anymore.
Absolutely. Don't wait till the last minute when it comes to visa applications.
And second, don't hesitate to reach out for help. There are plenty of resources available to guide you through this process. Talk to your education provider, connect with immigration experts, and do your own research.
Exactly. Knowledge is power. The more you know, the better equipped you'll be to navigate these changes and really make the most of your experience studying abroad.
And finally, I'd say be open to the possibilities. These changes may seem a bit challenging, but they also offer a chance to rethink what's truly important in international education. It's an opportunity to build more sustainable and ethical system that benefits